are hosting the third of the government shutdown press conferences that we've been doing around the state. And it's happening because Republican legislators have refused to work with Democrats to lower healthcare costs in Congress right now. This isn't about policy differences. It's about Republicans choosing political gains over people. We're in a government shutdown because Republicans in Washington would rather shut down the government than fix the healthcare crisis that they created. And this is desperately impacting North Carolinians across this state. Federal and military workers have 45,000 people right now across North Carolina that are working without pay or furloughed. This 1.4 million North Carolinians relying on SNAP benefits face an uncertainty about future food assistance. And just today, we had Republican congressional representatives that said they expected this shutdown to go past November. We know right now that Thanksgiving is coming up, holidays are around the corner, and people need to be able to put food on the table for their families. Critical hurricane recovery efforts in Western North Carolina are being delayed. We know that less than 11% of the federal funding that's been allocated from FEMA already in the state has been received, and we are still waiting on the rest of the $60 billion that the federal government owes Western North Carolina. The WIC nutrition program for women and infants could run out of money within the next few days, putting vulnerable families at risk. And 8 rural hospitals across North Carolina face immediate closure, forcing communities to travel dangerously far for emergency care. One of those being in my backyard of Person County. Instead of negotiating, Republicans are threatening to make it worse by firing federal workers, fighting to reverse the $319 million in Medicaid cuts that threaten health care for hundreds of thousands, protecting rural hospitals like the one in my backyard, and extending the ACA credits to prevent $672 of an annual premium increase for nearly 1 million North Carolinians. That would mean that your health insurance is going up from $600 to almost $1,200. Stopping healthcare premiums from doubling for 22 million Americans starting in January. Democrats are standing up right now in Congress, and we here today have an army of folks that are standing with them, right? And the truth is that Republicans don't want you to know that Republican leadership have told many members not to discuss health care because they know that their position is cruel and unpopular. They'd rather shut down the government than debate health care on its merits or fix the system that they have all 3 branches of government right now to create a better one if they have a problem with the one that is in place. They're willing to let nutrition programs for new mothers collapse while they play these political games. And Michael Whatley has cheered on his party's shutdown every step of the way, siding with DC insiders over lowering the healthcare costs for North Carolinians. It doesn't sound like a man who wants to represent the state of North Carolina, but instead wants to represent special interest in his party in Washington, DC. Here to talk to you all more today is State Representative Sarah Crawford about the cuts that the federal government has, and also about the fact that the state budget has not been passed in 106 days.
Thank you so much, Anderson. And thank you all so much for being here today as we enter yet another week of the Republican government shutdown. I'm Sarah Crawford, representing House District 66 in the North Carolina House of Representatives. Whoa! Thank you. Let's be clear about what is happening. Republicans have unified control over the federal government. They control every level of power, and yet the government is closed. That is not leadership. This is deliberate dysfunction. They have spent years trying to convince people that government doesn't work, and now they are proving it by breaking it on purpose. That's right. And who's paying that price? Hard-working North Carolinians, families, small business owners, public servants who just want to do their jobs. And let's talk about what this is really about. Health care. This shutdown is happening because Republicans refuse to protect North Carolinians from skyrocketing healthcare premiums. They are playing politics with people's coverage. Instead of working to make healthcare more affordable and accessible, they are doubling down on tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the country. The shutdown isn't an accident. It is a tactic, and it is a preview of what's coming under what I refuse to call what they call it, but it's the reconciliation bill. Some people know it as the one big beautiful bill, which I will not call it. This reconciliation bill rips healthcare coverage away from potentially hundreds of thousands of people in our state. And if Republicans get their way, healthcare costs, as you just heard, for nearly 1 million North Carolinians could double. Double. Think about that. Families already struggling to pay for groceries, rent, and gas, now facing health insurance bills that could wipe out their savings. The Republican economy is already unaffordable for too many working people. This would take it from hard to crisis level. And it's not just about premiums. It's about peace of mind. It's about knowing that if your child gets sick, you can take them to the doctor. It's about knowing that the system won't collapse under the weight of political gains. Meanwhile, the shutdown itself is causing real harm. Right now, there are nearly 140,000 North Carolinians who have been furloughed with no end in sight. These are federal workers, park rangers, researchers, analysts, educators, people who serve their communities every day. They're missing paychecks.
That's me.
They're missing mortgage payments. And they're missing the basic respect of a government that values their work. Thank you, whoever said that's me. Thank you. Here in the Triangle, our economy runs on innovation. Universities, research centers, tech firms. Many of those key institutions were already hurt by cuts earlier this year. This shutdown only makes things worse. Projects are delayed, grants are frozen, and families are left in limbo. And all of this, every bit of it, is avoidable. Republicans could end this today. They could vote to reopen the government, protect affordable health care, and give North Carolinians the stability they deserve. But instead, they're holding the economy hostage to score political points. And this rings true in North Carolina as well, as the state legislature continues not to pass a budget for the state. It has been 106 days, and Republicans who control both the Senate and the House have failed to come together to provide critical resources for infrastructure that keeps our state going, particularly Medicaid, whose future hangs in the balance as we speak. So my message is simple. Do your job. Let's say it together. Do your job. Open the government, protect healthcare, and stop playing politics with people's lives. North Carolinians show up to work every single day, and they deserve leaders. We all deserve leaders who do the same. I want to thank you again for being here, and it is my pleasure now to introduce and welcome to the podium Dr. Alan Rosenbaum, who is an OBGYN who will speak about the impact on hospitals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Alan Rosenbaum. I'm an OBGYN, and I practice at rural hospitals all across the state of North Carolina. Working class North Carolinians, particularly those in rural and exurban communities, stand the most to lose in this government shutdown. My friends and colleagues here have already spoken on how the increasing premiums will hit hardworking families who are already being squeezed by inflation. We know what will happen if nothing changes. Healthy people will drop out of the insurance pool. That will cause prices for everyone else to increase and put health insurances into the so-called death spiral. In turn, even more people will lose their insurance. This will make health insurance and access to health care even less accessible to hardworking North Carolinians who play by the rules. But it will get worse. What will happen when those uninsured folks have health emergencies? Well, it will show up at their rural local hospital.
Right.
Those facilities are required by law to provide emergency care. Those hospital bills will turn into medical debt and drown those families into bankruptcy. Simultaneously, the hospitals will have to eat the cost of that care. And that's a recipe for those hospitals to struggle financially. The UNC Shep Center has been tracking rural hospital closures. In the past 15 years, there have been 195 rural hospital closures in the United States, including 12 right here in the state of North Carolina. Other hospitals, in attempts to stay afloat, will cut services that lose money, like obstetrics, labor and delivery units in particular. Just 30 miles from here, in 2023, Betsy Johnson Memorial Hospital closed its labor and delivery unit. And now those women's families in this rural community must travel further away from home to seek pregnancy care, risking a complication or health problem. The Shep Center at UNC has identified 5 more hospitals in North Carolina that are at risk of closure, thanks to the legislation that Republican lawmakers passed earlier this year in Washington. Would you believe that all 5 of those hospitals are in districts represented by Republican House lawmakers? Representatives Virginia Fox, Brad Knopp, Richard Hudson, and Chuck Edwards, who has 2 facilities in his district. Voters deserve to know who is responsible for the hospitals in their communities struggling.
Yes.
And they deserve to know who is responsible when those hospitals close down. This shutdown risks the health and lives of working North Carolina families. It hurts individual families, it hurts healthcare systems, it hurts entire communities, disproportionately rural ones that have Republican elected representatives. On the other hand, the North Carolina Democratic Party is here today to fight for access to affordable health care for all North Carolinians.
Yes.
Regardless of whether or not they have voted for Democrats in the past or not.
Right.
We are here to fight for you and your family to have a better life.
Woo!
And I'd like to pass off the torch here to North Carolina Branch AFL-CIO President, Mr. Braxton.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. My name is Braxton Winston. I am the president of the North Carolina AFL-CIO.
Yeah.
And look, to be honest, my membership, I represent Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated voters, and everybody in between. And my job is to be an advocate for those workers, for their families, and for their jobs. So when this shutdown started, I didn't know exactly what to do. So I went to my membership. A lot of our federal workforce, over 85,000 of them in North Carolina, are members of unions. There are over 8,000 workers in Wake County alone that are federal employees. And the message from my membership and their affiliates could not be more clear. They asked me to go to the Democrats and to tell them to stand strong. For the past 9 months, our federal workforce has been squarely in the bullseye of a Trump White House that has looked to decimate the federal worker.
Yes.
That's right. They've stripped away their collective bargaining rights. They have faced rifts and layoffs only to be rehired back. That's no way for working families to live. Families who survive paycheck to paycheck, which many federal workers do, they need to understand, they need to have a sense of certainty for their federal budgets week to week and month to month. They do not have that now.
No, they don't.
My membership are tired of being political pawns.
Yes.
They understand the hardships that the American people will face if those ACA subsidies are rolled back. Tens of millions of people across this country will lose access to health care.
Yes.
Tens of thousands a year will die. So my members' message could not be more clear. Congress, do your job. Put working people first, fund the government, and fix this healthcare crisis. This has a real effect on the health of our workforce and our communities. Right now, at RDU, there are air traffic controllers that aren't getting a paycheck. They have a very stressful job. They have mental health needs. They should be worried about taking planes off and landing them on the tarmac, not whether or not their mortgage or their rent will be paid and if they'll be facing eviction.
That's right.
That's right.
Our TSA workers, I talked to the president of our TSA local. He says, our folks are going to show up. But President Winston, do you think you have room at the AFL-CIO headquarters here in Raleigh to store food so that they can run a food pantry?
Oh my gosh.
Because they can't put food on the table right now. And anybody who knows that hunger is one of those social determinants that has so many different health impacts on communities. But this has real impact, not just on the workers and their families. I talked to our VA nurses, that work in the hospital in Durham. They understand that the Trump administration's fight on the federal worker is all because they want to erode the public's trust in our federal workforce in an attempt to privatize the services that people like our American veterans have earned. That is ridiculous. So our message from labor is very clear to the Democrats in Congress. Stand strong. Get to the table, put working families first, fund the government, and fix the healthcare crisis. And we need everybody out there to reach out to your congressperson and senator, whether they're Republican or Democrat, to tell them that same truth. Put working families first, fund the government, and fix this healthcare crisis. Thank you all for having me.
Questions?
I have a question for Dr. Rosenbaum. Can you talk a little bit, the idea that someone may have to travel 45 minutes to an hour to the nearest hospital, can you talk about that's not some pain in the ass, but that is actually, could be the matter of life and death in a heart attack or in any number of situations?
Yeah, I mean, you gave a great example there, right? I mean, if you're having a heart attack, then each second that you're wasting, you're losing before you get to the hospital or a cardiac cath lab, there's risk that cardiac muscle is going to die. Same thing with brain cells during a stroke, and same thing with obstetric emergencies. We have women that are coming in with complications, and it is a matter of life and death that we get them to the operating room for a procedure immediately. It is absolutely a life and death issue for these families.
Thank you.
There was a horrific story that was in the New York Times not too long ago, and I don't know how many people read it, about Martin County. Martin County was one of the counties in North Carolina and eastern North Carolina where their hospital closed because of the lack of healthcare access and expansion of Medicaid in North Carolina under Republican state legislative leadership. And before we saw the reconciliation bill pass in Congress, Martin County was looking to reopen their hospital for the first time in, 2 or 3 years, I think, from the lack of it. And they were talking about a woman who had watched her dad fall because he had a heart attack, and she had to put him in her car herself and get him to the hospital. And she watched him die in the passenger seat next to him because they were at a stoplight and she could see the emergency room doors. And when you think about the stories of people all across rural North Carolina right now who are struggling from lack of access to a hospital or the needs that they're going to have, it is dire in every single way. And we are fighting for people all across this state right now who need to make sure they've got access to an operating room or to an emergency medical facility somewhere near their community right now. And we need Republicans in Congress to come to that table too, because it is, to the point that was made earlier, their districts that are going to prioritize. That's right, including ours too, including Democrats here in Wayne County, including everywhere else across the state. But you have got 88 rural counties throughout North Carolina right now, the second highest rural population of any state in the country other than Texas. And we know that we want to be able to keep people in rural places and not have to have them have a mass exodus and leave their communities because they can no longer get the care that they need. We also have, and I've been out western North Carolina too, Cherokee, Clay, the counties that are touching Tennessee. They say, we've got to drive 3 hours to Asheville or 3 hours to Nashville to be able to find access to a specialist right now. There is a healthcare desert in North Carolina as it is, and Republicans and these cuts in Congress are only going to make it worse.
Do you see any connection to what you're talking about today and next week with the redistricting session? Them trying to get another seat in Congress. Do you see anything ironic about that, or what comes to mind when you think about this situation and then layered over with the redistricting?
I think it shows you that Republicans are planning to conceal power in every way, shape, and form they can instead of worrying about the working people across this state that need their help to keep their hands on their hands. And they've shown that. Also, Trump's Department of Justice has shown that with the aspect of threatening Section 2 of the VRA right now. We are looking at Democrats about to lose potentially 19 to 20 seats in Congress because Republicans are coming after Black and brown representation in Congress right now. Congressman Don Davis's district is at risk from Republicans coming back and re-gerrymandering our state, even though redistricting is only supposed to take place every 10 years after a census happens. This is not supposed to be normal in North Carolina, even though it has been over the last 8 years that we have had different maps every 2 years in the state because Republicans have consistently tried to conceal power. And I'd love for our state representative to also answer that question, being as she's going to be going back in the legislature in the 21st to be able to talk about this.
Thank you, Anderson, and thank you for the question. I'm not sure that I have a whole lot to add to that, but just to reiterate, this just shows you where Republican priorities are in the state of North Carolina. We should be coming back to talk about how we fund Medicaid so that it doesn't fall off a cliff on November 1st because we have failed to fund what the department has requested. Instead, we're coming back to talk about redistricting because Republicans believe if they can't win fair, they're going to change things and cheat and win that way.
Again, what brought up has a real effect on the health and ability for North Carolina's workforce to access health care. Already, our state employees have seen increases in their state health care premiums. Our state has reduced Medicaid direct payments already starting October 1st because of an action by the General Assembly. You are seeing overall, there are requests already by healthcare providers to increase premiums. So what you see is because of the inaction of the General Assembly combined with the inaction of the United States Congress, North Carolina's workers are facing a double, in some cases, a triple whammy when it comes to increases to healthcare costs and the inability to access the healthcare services that they need.
The last thing I'll say about that is that there are 750,000 people across North Carolina right now that are waiting for a pay raise. If you are a state employee or a teacher in North Carolina right now, that Republicans in our state legislature are deciding that you don't deserve that pay raise, but they deserve to go re-gerrymander the state of North Carolina. And that's what they're going to prioritize. And so if I was anybody out there right now, if y'all want to come join us and tell Republicans that you'd like them to fund the government and that you'd like them to pass the state budget or actually do their jobs, I hope you're coming out and joining us on October the 21st.
Yes.
We're going to be rallying in Raleigh at 11:30 outside the state legislature and making sure that we're holding people accountable because we need to be out there just as much as they are right now in the court of public opinion because we know that there are not many ways that we're going to be able to fight back, at least at a legal level or at a national level with the gerrymandering that we're about to see come down, unfortunately.
Make them represent us.
Yeah. Any questions, other questions? I love my audience, y'all. We've been very hyped up today. I'm telling you, that's the first scene. We got some juice behind us right now. I y'all think about cigars too, right? Any other questions?
I've got one more. President Winston, you mentioned speaking with TSA workers and people in the air traffic control towers. I think Chair Clayton mentioned earlier that someone in the federal government predicted that this could go on through November until Thanksgiving. How long can federal workers hold out until they have to start looking for new jobs just to make ends meet? Do you have any sense as to when the regular Joe on the street who's going to the airport will start to see changes, fewer workers?
Our North Carolina workers are resilient. So I can tell you that our labor movement is going to work to organize and marshal resources wherever they are needed, whenever they are needed. That work is starting now. But people are facing zero or reduced paychecks right now. Again, 8,000 of those workers are here in Wake County alone. So that is also going to mean us, the taxpayers, are going to take on that role because they are going to start drawing from unemployment, state unemployment funds, which we know already in North Carolina aren't sufficient to supply a living wage week to week. But again, my workforce has told us that they are going to figure it out because they have been in the crosshairs for the past 9 months. They have already been facing layoffs and rips or snatching away of their collective bargaining rights and ignoring of those contracts. So they have been, forced under fire over these past 9 months, and they are ready for this fight, and we are ready to lead this fight to combat this war against workers that the Trump administration is waging.
Support the working class.
Thank y'all for being here today, everybody. And thank you all for being here today. Thank you.